the gun groups, both sides, they make lots of endorsements in these races, right? But as you mentioned earlier, guns have really become a very polarized issue. And so a lot of their endorsements are just the NRA endorses Republicans, and Everytown, Giffords, and other groups endorse Democrats. So how much insight can we gain from looking at how they did in their respective races as far as endorsements go?
Well, look, as we said at the outset, these days the gun endorsements are pretty partisan affairs. It's not so much the groups; it's also the sorting out of the different coalitions. The Republicans are now a pro-gun party; the Democrats are a gun control supporting party. So, I mean, a lot of the scorecards are going to basically reflect, which party does better on election night. It's not. I don't know if it really tells you a whole lot about the clout of the organizations themselves. The NRA is certainly not nearly as influential as it was, a decade ago, 20 years ago, because of a lot of scandals and controversies in its organization. So, like they'll claim victories, and certainly this was going to be looking like a very good night for Republicans taking back, if they take back, the House and potentially the Senate. But I don't know. I mean, every group is going to try to claim that they did something to get that result. I think it's more, as we've been discussing in this podcast, there are a lot of other issues that have moved voters towards the Republican Party this year, and gun control groups, gun owner and the NRA and other gun rights groups are benefiting from that Republican wave, benefiting from that movement writ large to the Republican Party.
And a lot of these, gun group endorsements now, you can also up your average by just not endorsing in certain races, right? And so that kind of takes a little bit away from the relevance of all these endorsements as far as like trying to parse out how well each gun group did in their respective races, right? Or am I reading too much into
No, I think that's right. And again, it's hard to look. I mean, I care about where you spend money. If the Chamber of Commerce makes a lot of endorsements, but they're not spending money for their candidates, like it's just a list. It's a piece of paper. I care. The NRA used to be a little. I mean, look, the power of the NRA is in its membership. Like the people,
right.
Are there a lot of, as you know, this is a litmus test issue for a whole lot of voters, and they're overwhelmingly Republican now. So, you don't need a group to mobilize gun rights voters, right? I mean, and the NRA was very effective in its heyday. They don't have quite as much clout as they used to, but you don't need a group. You don't need an outside force to tell people how to vote on a lot of these issues. They know it through their, they know that the Republican Party now is pretty much the party aligned with gun rights ownership.
Yeah. Although, certainly I think that's another area you could look at is how well they mobilize voters through their internal, get out the vote mechanisms on either side. It will probably have an impact, although that'll be harder to read, right, than simply looking at where they're spending, ad dollars in campaigns. That'll be more important than the endorsements, but and you can actually see there's a smaller number of races. I mean, for instance, the NRA has spent the majority of their money in just 6 Senate races. The 6 big ones, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. And then there's one other one that's off the top of my mind, but they're putting most of their resources in those races. You're seeing matches from the gun control side in those races as well. But you're also seeing a little more diversity on the gun control side. And they're sort of trying to protect some of their House Democrats that are big supporters of theirs who've come up through their system of developing candidates like Lucy McBeth in Georgia. And there's also the state Senate race in Colorado. That's Everytown has poured a bunch of money into to try and keep control of the state Senate there. It's one of the few states where you've seen significant growth or significant movement in gun laws over the last 10 years, in the direction of the gun control movement. So, those seem like races to really watch as well, right?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And Everytown is obviously the big spender on the Democratic side for gun control support. And they're not quite as active as they've been in other elections, certainly not in the presidential in 2020. but they're still playing. They're still spending big money in a handful of key races, and that is those are the battle lines in this election.